You think you're calling the shots. You check balances, you swipe cards, you nod at budgets you never open again. But this morning, sitting at the table with a half-drunk coffee and a pile of receipts, you feel the unease. Most of what happened today around money happened without you deciding. Small choices, automatic patterns, habit, fear, inherited rules have been steering the wheel. Watch the same moment twice. First, see your excuse. Not now, I'll deal with it later. Then watch your partner from the other side of the table, brow creased, wondering if you'll ever talk openly about money. Now look at the ledger, cold and honest, tallying missed raises, auto-pay subscriptions you forgot, opportunities you dismissed. They're the same scene from different angles, but together they reveal a pattern: avoidance, comfort, and the quiet corrosion of potential. Napoleon Hill said prosperity begins the instant someone decides to take full responsibility for their results, even their mistakes. That's the hard, freeing truth here. This isn't one dramatic failure you can blame on a bad day. It's the absence of internal command, your attention scattered, your default set to autopilot, your safety nets disguised as restraints. Imagine shifting the angle. You own one small choice. Answer the hard text, open the spreadsheet, say yes to a calculated risk. Your posture changes. You sit up straighter, your voice steadies, your attention narrows. Decisions that once felt heavy become simple because you're no longer deferring them to habit. Persistence becomes a muscle you choose to exercise. Momentum follows. This video will show those shifts, not as a lecture, but as a mirror. If you're tired of feeling stuck, this is the space where you can begin to wake up to the choices you already make and change them. If this landed with you, give it a quick like. What automatic money habit would you choose to change first? Share in the comments. And if you're ready to take charge of your financial life, subscribe. There's more to come. You watch yourself make decisions the way you tie your shoes, without thinking. At the coffee table, you shrug and agree to just this once, while a credit card scrolls red on your phone. In the next room, your partner's voice is small and steady, listing the things they worry about: missed deadlines, the savings that never grow, the plans you keep shelving. Later, you open a spreadsheet and the cold math doesn't lie. Small giveaways of money and time add up into long seasons of compromise. Those scenes repeat because most of your money life runs on habit. Inherited rules about security, stories about what you deserve, the fear of looking foolish if a risk fails. Napoleon Hill said prosperity begins the instant someone decides to take full responsibility for their results, even their mistakes. That decision doesn't land like thunder. It arrives as a series of tiny refusals to let excuses pilot your life. You'll see it in close-up: the way you accept less pay because negotiating feels uncomfortable, the way you bypass opportunities because it's safer to do nothing, the way you confuse a steady drip of small conveniences with real fulfillment. Each choice feels private and minor, but together they build a pattern, an absence of internal command that looks, from the outside, like drift. Now imagine the shift. You stand a little taller when you answer questions about money. You listen differently to advice because you're sorting for truth, not comfort. Your calendar fills with deliberate steps: a call to a mentor, a simplified budget, one honest conversation with your partner, and your persistence becomes a muscle you exercise daily. Decision by decision, your posture, focus, and resolve realign. This is not immediate perfection. It's the slow reclaiming of authority, choosing to be the agent of your financial life rather than its passive passenger. If this resonates, tap like, quietly, to mark that moment. What's one automatic money habit you could change today? If you want more practical shifts like this, subscribe and keep building that command, one choice at a time. You catch yourself smiling through it. The casual shrug when your partner brings up the budget, the quick, "we'll see," when a promotion could mean even a little more risk. Those moments repeat until they feel normal. Watch them again. The same coffee table, the same paused breath, only now you notice the ledger open on your phone, the column of could-have beens growing like a quiet accusation. Routines, family stories, and the small, sensible fears you tuck into the back of your mind are doing the steering while you go about your day. Napoleon Hill said prosperity begins the instant someone decides to take full responsibility for their results, even their mistakes. Imagine how that changes the scene. Instead of averting your eyes, you lean in. Instead of accepting an offer that undervalues you, you ask a question: Instead of mistaking security for safety, you label the suffocation it brings. Taking responsibility isn't blame. It's permission to act. It rewires the ordinary. You start to see the pattern, accepting less because it's comfortable, dodging calculated risks because the fear feels louder than the potential gain, mistaking a steady paycheck for a life that's actually shrinking. Each choice folded into the next created the life you have, not fate, not bad luck. That realization is both heavy and liberating. Heavy because of the missed chances, liberating because the authority to change was always yours. When you choose differently, your body and mind follow. Your posture straightens when you negotiate. Your attention sharpens when you schedule money conversations. Your persistence deepens when you measure progress instead of waiting for a miracle. Small rituals, naming one fear, setting a tiny investment goal, deciding to ask for one raise, become proof you are in command. Staying on autopilot is, itself, a choice. If this struck a nerve, give this video a quick like. Tell me in the comments, what's the one financial habit you're ready to reclaim today? And if you're serious about taking charge, subscribe. We'll walk through the next steps together. You watch the same scene 3 times and feel it differently each time. First, it's your excuse, a hushed, practiced line you tell yourself about timing or knowledge or fate. Then it's your partner's worry, an exhausted question at the kitchen table, a tightening around their eyes. Finally, it's the ledger, rows of numbers that don't care about comfort, only consequences. Those repeat takes strip away the glamour of explanation and leave you with a pattern. Routines, inherited assumptions, and a small, steady fear are steering more of your money life than you realize. Napoleon Hill said prosperity begins the moment someone takes full responsibility for their results, and that includes the missteps. That moment isn't a thunderclap. It's a slow, quiet decision to stop outsourcing authority over your choices. You've been treating security like an immovable shelter when often it's a slow suffocation. The salary you don't negotiate, the side project you never start, the investment you avoid because it feels risky. Each safe choice compounds into a life that looks secure but feels stalled. Imagine the same scenes again, but with you in command. Your posture changes first, shoulders back, voice steadier. Small rituals follow. You read the numbers without flinching. You ask hard questions instead of rehearsed answers. You set a deadline and keep it. Persistence replaces procrastination because you've connected action to identity. Decisions stop being reactions and become deliberate moves towards something you value. Owning your choices doesn't mean reckless leaps. It means knowing why you do what you do and choosing what aligns with that truth. It means accepting responsibility for both the wins and the stumbles, because each is feedback for the next choice. Autopilot felt comfortable because responsibility felt heavy, but responsibility is also the lever that moves your life. If this lands with you, a small gesture helps. Like this video so others can find it too. What's one choice you can own today that would change how your next month looks? Subscribe for the next step. Together you'll practice deciding on purpose. You begin to notice the same scenes looped in your life. The coffee you buy every morning because it's easier than making it. The quiet nod when someone offers less than you deserve. The quick scroll that replaces a difficult conversation about money. Each act feels small, even reasonable, until you watch them replay from another angle and realize how habit, inherited belief, and a whisper of fear have been steering for you. When you look closer, patterns emerge. You avoid risk not because you've weighed outcomes, but because you've been taught that playing it safe equals responsibility. You accept a paycheck that doesn't reflect your worth because negotiation feels like confrontation. You equate security with a slow suffocation, a predictable routine that keeps you comfortable enough to avoid change. These are not one-off failures. They're the architecture of autopilot. Napoleon Hill's point lands here. Prosperity begins the instant you take full responsibility, even for the mistakes. Responsibility isn't blame. It's reclaiming the driver's seat. Practically, that means changing posture, literal and metaphorical. Before you answer an email that asks for a concession, straighten your posture, breathe, and center your attention. Before you click buy, pause and name the feeling that's pushing you. Before you accept no as final, ask the clarifying question you've been avoiding. Ownership rewires daily life. You start to design tiny rituals, a weekly 10-minute ledger review, a one-question script before any spending. Does this move me toward what I want? A preset transfer into savings that removes decision fatigue. Your focus sharpens. Your persistence deepens because every small choice becomes intentional practice. Decisions stop being reflex and become the instruments of your future. This is a practice, not a perfection. Begin by watching one moment today from two angles: your impulse and what you truly want. If this landed with you, tap like. What's one small financial choice you can take responsibility for this week? Subscribe to follow the next steps and turn those moments into momentum. You watch the same scene 3 times and each replay lands a different truth. First, there's your excuse. The small comforts you tell yourself you deserve after a hard day, the passive scroll through sale notifications, the quiet consent to payday living. Then there's your partner's worry, the expression they hide when you say, "We'll figure it out later." The whispered fear that your postponements are a shared mortgage on your future. Finally, the ledger, a cold column of missed interest, missed raises you didn't negotiate, opportunities traded for temporary safety. You realize these aren't isolated mistakes. They're a repeating choreography. Routines, inherited beliefs, and fear are running the show while you assume the script is yours. Napoleon Hill put it plainly: prosperity begins the instant someone decides to take full responsibility for their results, and that includes owning their mistakes. When you see your life from these angles, responsibility stops being a slogan and becomes a tangible switch you can flip. The pattern tightens. You accept less than you deserve because it feels safe. You dodge necessary risks because what if feels louder than potential. You mistake security for suffocation, settling into a slow, polite erosion of possibility. Each moment is small, almost polite, and that's why they hide in plain sight. Now imagine shifting perspective. The same morning routine, but you straighten your shoulders before opening your bank app. The same conversation, but this time you name the fear and ask for what you need. The same job offer, but you negotiate instead of nodding. When you start deciding deliberately, posture changes first. You carry less of that invisible slump. Focus follows. You stop reacting and begin planning. Persistence becomes less about grit and more about consistency guided by clear intent. Decisions stop being accidental. They become commitments. Owning your choices is the simplest revolution. It costs nothing and it demands everything. So, what's the one habitual move you'll refuse to let run on autopilot? If this landed with you, tap like, leave that answer below. Your comment can be the first honest act of change, and subscribe to keep building that command over your life. You watch the same scene 3 times. Once through the blurry fog of habit, once through your partner's worried eyes, and once as a cold spreadsheet of opportunities not taken. At first it feels like a single mistake, an impulse buy, a job you stayed in, a risk you skirted. But the replay makes something else clear. This is pattern, not accident. Routines, family stories, and the small, steady tap of fear have been steering your money life while you assumed you were in the driver's seat. Napoleon Hill noticed that prosperity starts the moment someone claims full responsibility for their results, even the messy, embarrassing ones. When you accept that, everything changes. You stop blaming market conditions, luck, or other people's choices. You begin to notice posture, how you physically shrink when talking about money, how you avoid the ledger, how you name security when you mean slow suffocation. You hear your own excuses echoed back in your partner's questions, and those echoes force you to decide whether to answer from autopilot or from purpose. Owning your choices is less dramatic than a single breakthrough and more stubborn than a pep talk. It's small corrections, opening the spreadsheet, saying no to a comfortable but limiting path, taking a calculated risk that aligns with your values. With ownership, your focus sharpens. You start to set one clear aim each week instead of scattering effort. Persistence replaces procrastination because now you're accountable to a standard you respect. This is the moment the pattern breaks, when you trade automatic comfort for conscious commitment. It doesn't mean you won't fail. It means you'll learn faster, stand straighter in conversations about money, and refuse to let inherited fears write your future. If this landed for you, a quick like helps others find it too. What's one automatic money habit you're ready to change this week? Write it below. Commenting is your first act of awakening. And if you're ready to keep reclaiming control, subscribe and let these shifts become the default, not the exception. You watch the same moment 3 times, and it starts to feel like a lens you can't unsee. First, there's you. The quick excuse. I'll wait until next month. I don't have time to learn this. I can't afford the risk. The words are soft, automatic, recycled from tired routines. Then there's your partner, eyes tightening, repeating a different loop. Worry about bills, a quieter resignation that steers conversations away from dreams. Finally, the ledger, the cold, patient record of what you didn't do. Opportunities deferred, raises never negotiated, small investments never started. Seen together, the pattern is obvious. These aren't isolated mistakes. They're the output of being on autopilot. Napoleon Hill once pointed out that prosperity begins the instant someone decides to take full responsibility for their results, their wins, and their mistakes. That responsibility isn't dramatic. It's not a single heroic act. It's a string of tiny, consistent choices, saying no to convenience that costs, saying yes to discomfort that grows you. When you admit that your security might actually be slow suffocation, the steady acceptance of less than you deserve, the tension you felt for years suddenly has a shape. Owning your choices changes the physics of your day. Your posture shifts first. You sit straighter at the kitchen table when you open the budget. Your questions change from "can I avoid risk?" to "what risk do I need to take to move forward?" Your attention narrows to what matters. Persistent effort over flashy schemes, measurable habits over wishful thinking. Decisions that once felt heavy become procedural. Call, negotiate, set aside, automate. You don't become fearless, you become purposeful. This is the turning point. Autopilot wasn't an accident. It was a choice you kept making by default. Recognizing that gives you the leverage to change it. If this landed for you, give the video a like. What's one automatic money habit you'd be willing to take responsibility for today? Share it below. And if you're ready to keep making deliberate choices, subscribe. This is where the work of waking up really begins. You stand in the same kitchen, the same bill on the counter, but something in you has shifted. When you decide, truly decide, to own the outcome, not blame, not excuse, your body answers first. You straighten your shoulders. You breathe slower. Those tiny physical corrections pull your attention away from autopilot and into choice. Ownership isn't a sudden fireworks moment. It's a series of small, deliberate acts. You set a pause rule before any impulse purchase. You open the ledger and stare honestly at the numbers. You say the sentence you've been avoiding to your partner, your boss, or to yourself. Each act is a little rebellion against the old script that kept you safe and small. You'll notice how persistence replaces panic. A payment plan becomes a plan, not a punishment. A savings goal becomes a promise you keep, not a vague hope. As you practice, fear doesn't vanish. It gets invited into the room and given a seat. You learn to thank it for trying to protect you, then move forward anyway. Risk becomes a measured tool, not a terrifying abyss. Security stops masquerading as the only sensible choice. It becomes one of many options, weighed instead of worshipped. Your routines change shape. Mornings are no longer scrambled decisions, but a few repeatable rituals that set your mental thermostat. Your attention narrows to what actually moves you toward your goals. You discover that discipline is not deprivation. It's a framework that gives more freedom than indecision ever did. This is less about perfect outcomes and more about the steady action of someone who takes responsibility for results, even the mistakes that teach them. When you own your choices, people notice. Conversations are different, opportunities arrive more clearly, and your confidence radiates in small, unmistakable ways. If this landed for you, give the video a like, a quiet nod to yourself. What one small rule could you put in place today to interrupt autopilot? Write it below. Your idea might be the nudge someone else needs. If you want to keep reshaping your financial habits and your life, subscribe and follow the next step with us. Now imagine you decide, in this very moment, to stop outsourcing your life to habit and to start owning each small, stubborn choice. Napoleon Hill said prosperity begins the instant someone accepts full responsibility for their results. That's not abstract jargon. It's posture, breath, and the way you reach for your wallet. Picture yourself at the kitchen table. Before, you'd flick open a tab and buy the easy fix. Now you pause. You sit up straighter, take one slow breath, and ask, do I want this, or do I want the life this purchase helps build? That tiny interruption rewires your impulses. Your ledger stops being a surprise and becomes a tool. Monthly reviews, a simple list of priorities, a single automated transfer toward a goal. Those are practical acts of ownership. Ownership changes how you speak to others. Instead of letting someone else define your finances, a partner's anxiety, a parent's caution, a job's security theater, you name the terms. You negotiate, you set limits, you say no when a small comfort steals a larger dream. Those conversations are awkward at first. They're also the marks of someone who's finally taking the wheel. Risk no longer feels like a threat, but a signal. Passing on a necessary risk looks like choosing comfort at the expense of growth. Taking a calculated risk looks like investing time in a course, opening candid salary talks, or moving money from autopilot savings into deliberate opportunities. Your nervousness remains, but your actions are no longer automatic reactions. They are commitments you keep. Persistence becomes less dramatic and more routine. 10 minutes a day of tracking, a weekly review, a single monthly decision that aligns with your goals. Small, consistent choices accumulate into real momentum. Remember, staying on autopilot is itself a choice. If ownership is the muscle, this is your first set of reps. If this landed, tap the like button quietly. What's one tiny habit you can change this week to take more responsibility for your money? Tell me in the comments. If you're ready to keep building that muscle, subscribe and we'll walk the next steps together. You've watched the same moments played back from different angles. The tight smile as you say, "That's fine." The way your partner's voice tightens when they ask about the savings. The ledger that quietly records what never happened because you never decided to make it happen. Those snapshots aren't accusations, they're evidence. Habits, inherited stories about money, and the slow gravity of comfort have been steering you while you assumed you were at the wheel. Now imagine shifting the camera. Notice how your shoulders change when you stop justifying and start choosing. Your voice, steadier. Your gaze, fixed on a number or a plan rather than the fog of someday. Taking ownership isn't a cinematic leap. It's a sequence of small, deliberate corrections. Calling for that meeting, saying no to a purchase that distracts from a goal, opening the spreadsheet you've avoided. Each one adjusts your posture, physically and mentally, toward possibility. You don't need perfection. Napoleon Hill's point lands here. Prosperity begins the instant you take full responsibility for your results, even the mistakes. That responsibility clears the fog. It makes risk intelligible instead of terrifying. It lets you trade the hollow promise of security for a disciplined pursuit of progress. When you claim your agency, your persistence sharpens because the cost of giving up becomes visible, not abstract. So practice one decisive act today. Set a line item in your budget. Ask the hard question in that relationship. Apply for the role you've been underplaying. Notice how your daily decisions start to align. The autopilot may still hum in the background, but now you wear the pilot's headset. If this resonates, a quick like helps more people find it. What's one financial choice you can own before the day ends? Share it below. Writing it down is the first act of accountability. And if you're ready to keep stepping into this responsibility, subscribe. This channel is for people who decide to lead their lives, not drift through them. You've watched the same moments again and again. The same excuses, the same soft compromises, the ledger that never quite balances. Now you know the quiet reason. Many of your money moves weren't choices so much as default habits. That's not a failure. It's information. You can treat it as a life sentence, or you can treat it as a starting point. When you decide to own your choices, everything shifts. Your posture changes, literally and figuratively. You stand taller with decisions you don't have to rationalize afterward. Your attention sharpens. Instead of reacting to the next bill or impulse, you steer toward priorities you've named. Persistence becomes less about grit and more about reliable, repeatable routines that support the life you want. Napoleon Hill put it simply: prosperity begins the instant you take full responsibility for your results. That responsibility isn't blame, it's power. Start small. Rename one automatic habit and set one tiny interruption. A 5-second pause before a purchase, a weekly 30-minute money check-in, a conversation with your partner where you state one non-negotiable value. These micro-decisions map out a new default. Over time, they rearrange your available options, your confidence, and your relationship with risk. You'll find that what once felt like scarcity uncovers possibility. What looked like safety becomes a slow drain only when you let it define you. If this landed for you, give the video a simple like, a quiet nod that you're paying attention. Now tell me, what's the one small choice you can make today that would change tomorrow? Share it in the comments. Naming it is the second action of taking control. If you want more clear, practical steps that help you reclaim your financial agency, the kinds of adjustments that rewire habits without turning your life upside down, subscribe and stay with these conversations. Owning your choices is a practice. When you practice, you change.